Στην πύλη θα σταθώ.
This is Nicholas Alexiou, Department of Sociology and the Hellenic American Project, Queen's College CUNY, and this is in the series of oral history and musicians. Today we are very honored, happy to have an interview with one of the most well-known and renowned musician and a person, Mr. Spiros Exaras, who is a classical jazz a musician, a composer, and a guitarist. Thank you very much, Mr. Exaras, αγαπητέ Spiro, for the interview today with the Hellenic American Project.
Nico, thank you so much for the invitation. The pleasure is mine to be a part of this wonderful series that you're creating.
You have too many identities, let's say. You have a great range of talents and areas that you have explored and you continue exploring. So, classical on one hand, what else?
Well, my background is classical, so obviously this is unavoidable. You know, I have to be also a classical composer and guitarist. But meanwhile, I was exploring jazz since I was 15 or 16 years old, and this is the other side of mine, and I really love jazz, and I find it very interesting. It is actually two different kinds of music, classical and jazz, with a lot of similarities. In a way, if you analyze jazz very deep, you'll find so many common harmonical similarities that you're going to be surprised. But the way that every music is interpreted is very different. That's why stylistically there are two different kinds of music.
And you also compose. You're a composer.
Absolutely, yes. This is something also that comes naturally to me. Of course, I've studied classical composition, but mainly to be able to compose a melody or a song comes naturally. And then I use some of my knowledge to develop one song or an idea that I have and get it somewhere else and make it like a journey, make it a song or a composition, or depending the situation. Sometimes I compose music for movies or theatrical plays, so I have to work together with the scene. But we can talk later about that.
I would like you to help us to understand where you come from in terms of growing up and also musically. Let's start from the very beginning. Where you were born and grew up?
I was born in Thessaloniki, Greece, but from a very young age, since I was like 6 months old, I ended up in Athens, and that's then my family settled there, so I was raised in Athens. So when they ask me, it's difficult to answer, that's why I mentioned, where are you from? I say Thessaloniki born, Athens raised.
And the family roots?
My mother was from Patras, and my father was from Ceres.
Excellent.
So we, not only musically, but the family has a big range too, right?
And then you went to a musical school, or you went to a conservatory in Athens?
Right. I went to Greek National Conservatory of Athens, and then I continued at Nikos Skalkotas Conservatory of Music, where I graduated on both guitar and composition.
How supportive was your family when you?
Good question.
When you announced that you're going to follow musical path instead of being a lawyer or a dentist?
You're right. Actually, they were not very comfortable, but they were very open. Let me say, they never found it as an obstacle or as something wrong, because first of all, my father liked music. He was playing himself a harmonica, and that was the first instrument I was taught by my father when I was like 4 or 5 years old. I was playing also the harmonica because he was playing. So he had also a talent naturally, but he never developed because he was officer in the army. But he liked music. So in a way, who knows, maybe I told him I'll do something that he always wanted to do and he never did it. I don't know, but the only thing he told me, he was a little afraid about the economical situation, because many times, and we all know that artists and musicians of course struggle. It's not easy like when you're a doctor or a lawyer. Usually things flow easier, in terms of salaries and finding work. But I was young and ambitious, and I said, Daddy, don't worry, everything will be fine. So he really believed in me, and the mother followed, of course.
Do you remember how was the situation at the conservatory and the Skalkotas institution? It was challenging, it was a lot of young players.
Yes. I have to say,
was a class issue also?
The musical level in classical music, back then and today, of course, but I'm talking about, 40 years ago, it was really, really high. And I'm saying that because when I moved to New York and I met a lot of students, and actually awarded students from Juilliard School here, which is one of the best schools in the world, I have to say the level was good, but I was expecting, coming from Greece, to see like something different, which I saw in jazz music comparing to Greece, but I did not see it in classical. And I understood that Greece had already a really good level in classical music.
Yes, Kalomiris, Petridis, Kalkotas, but how large or how small is a Greek audience receiving or playing or enjoying classical
Greek
music?
audience is not very educated, I have to say, in music, unfortunately. They can't really receive so well classical or jazz, or at least back then. Now, younger kids are a little better.
But how you're feeling, because you're playing all this great music, all the classical music in general, but how you're feeling, going to school, growing up, and seeing a very limited probably audience or interest?
Maybe because I always had in mind that at some point I will go out of Greece. All my idols, even in classical or jazz, were based either in London or in America or in Europe, So, and as a young kid, I always thought that I would leave Greece. Plus, when I was 18 years old, I had the opportunity to come as an exchange student in the US.
Okay.
And that was a shock for me. It was a cultural shock in a good way. At age of 18, I was in Detroit, and I lived for 1 year, and I finished American high school. And I was able to go out and see live. They had a jazz festival, okay? And who was playing there? Dizzy Gillespie, McCoy Tyner, Herbie Hancock, all of these giants. And I couldn't believe it. Like, oh my God, like these people, their music is this. And my music, when I usually go out without undergrading Greek composers, but in the style that I was searching and I was interested, it was almost inexistable back then in Greece, And these people, those icons, they somehow shaped the American music and the today's music all over the world, because jazz, in my opinion, is a branch of classical music in a more modern way and using other elements that classical does not. So being able to see all of these jazz icons, it blew my mind. And then I was going to a high school there in Detroit that had everything, like had a theater, had a big band. I was actually picked, I auditioned and the big band, and they took me, and I was playing on a big band, and I was seeing actors, athletes, and I said, wow. And that was a public high school. So imagine for me, what shock was that. So and then I returned to Greece, and I always wanted to come back. So when I went back to Greece after that, I finished all my studies. I went to the military because it's mandatory. And then, at some point, I said, okay, I have to try. I have to go out for a while, although I was already upcoming artist in Greece because I just had released my first personal record with 15 compositions of Kostas Hadjis, who I had the honor to play with him. We did a tour together. And that was my first personal work. And actually that was released after I came here. That's how all of these decisions were made fast, because I said if I stay more in Greece, I will probably end up there without exploring something new, something that I always had in my mind.
And you decided to come to New York or to Detroit?
Listen, when you play jazz, you want to go to the best city, to the Mecca of jazz. And that's what New York was and still is, I would say. So I said, okay, I'm gonna try New York this time. This myth, because this city is a myth for many, in many levels. And I came without knowing anyone, and with a few money that I had saved. And but I didn't mind. For me, it was an adventure. Really, I still remember these moments. How beautiful. Sometimes I didn't have money to eat, but I didn't mind. I was laughing. I was so happy that I'm in the center of the world, in the center of music, and meeting all of these people, going out and having the opportunity to jam, to play with these people. And
this is in the 90s.
It was end of 92. And back then it was the Village Voice. You probably remember this weekly magazine. Of course, it was printed back then. We didn't have internet and all of that. It was not developed yet. And it was every, I think, Tuesday, I don't remember. It was weekly. And I was going right at the night that it was coming out, because the last 2 pages, they always had ads, and they were saying, seeking guitarist, an African band, or a rock band, or a jazz, or whatever, you know, or a jam session in that place. So I was looking opportunities to go for audition, to go and jam with people, so I can expand my roster of.
Do you remember any of the venues at the time? Village, Bleecker Street, or the area around? It was
some of them they still.
Village Gate.
Yes, Village Vanguard.
The Village Vanguard.
Which one was one great that it closed down? I can't recall the name. It was in the village too. But yeah, we lost a lot of them. But some other new ones came recently also.
What about the Greek community? Because it was a Greek American community here when you came. How was the musical scene here, or how was your relationship? Because you play, you have the παιδεία, you have the musical παιδεία, of course, and the idiosyncrasia of being Greek and Mediterranean. But also you play a different style. You play jazz. I don't know how much familiar the Greek community was with jazz overall.
Well, when I started playing in the Greek community, I didn't start it as a jazz player, of course. Honestly, in the beginning, I met some people because I was looking for work, and I did it clearly for money. But in the meantime, I met Fambas from Thiosos, and Thiosos, I have to say, was a really great music venue. Not only for Greek, he was crossing over. He had some Latin, some flamenco, I think, some world music.
The venue at Chelsea, New York.
Yes, on 21st Street. It was in 6th Avenue, and I had great experiences there. And we were playing the good Greek music, the quality Greek music, the Greek music that it should be played all the time, and not the music was playing at Spilia or other places. You know what I mean? And at some point there, after being a couple of years at Thiosos, then Fabas put me in charge of the orchestra, and that's where I started exploring things. Meanwhile, I had realized how important and rich is the Greek music. Because when I was in Greece, I was a little snub about Greek music. You know what? Like hearing all the time all of this skiladica, which I don't know what's the English word for that. If you have one, please help me. But you know what I mean, these clubs with a very low level of music and the execution was terrible, uneducated, mostly singers. The audience also with the throwing flowers. It was not about music, but about showing off or something. So because we had a lot of that in Greece, I couldn't really appreciate the quality that this music had. Of course, I always loved the clarino from Epirus, Epirotiko clarino. And I liked certain things. I liked, of course, Manos Hatzidakis, who is my favorite still composer, but Mikis Theodorakis, Loizos Xarchakos, we had all of these great composers. I had the honor also to tour with Ilias Andriopoulos for 5 years, another great composer, and a lot of other people. But still, maybe because also I was young, I was into classical and jazz a lot, and you know, I had that snobism about Greek music. But coming here and started working at Thiesos, and when they put me in charge, I started to experiment, and I started putting rock and jazz elements into Greek Zebeki chords, Iftetelio, that, and it sounded wonderful. And we're talking about now mid-90s. We're not talking about, because now, of course, everyone is doing, we live in the world of fusion right now. But back then, it was something new, you know, and I said, you know what, I like this. This is really sounds really interesting, you know, and very different. And that's how I came up with the idea of Phrygianics. My first album here, which was released in 2003, but the compositions were, they had been composed end of 90s, beginning of 2000.
Tell us about the name, because it's a very intriguing name.
Well, the name Phrygianics obviously has the word Phrygians. Phrygians, we all know about the ancient Phrygians. We had Lydians, Phrygians, Dorians. Back then the music was monophonic, and every, let's say, society, like the Dorians were using a specific scale. We call it Dorian mode today. The Ionians had another different scale. They were, we call it Ionian. Actually, look, Ionian is basically the major. It's basically the C major scale. Mm-hmm. Now, all of them, they were similar. There were also 7-tone scales, but they all had one difference. For example, as you play the major scale, which is Ionic, right? All you do is, see now, if I raise, instead of this fret, I go there, one sharp, like if I raise one tone by a half tone, it changes to a Lydian mode, and etc., etc. So if you play the A minor, actually, the A minor is the Aeolian. So every society had its own scales. So we had these 7 scales that we use in jazz music. When we improvise in jazz music, we use Ionian mode, Dorian, Aeolian, Phrygian. So here comes the Phrygian mode. And I said, okay, I had one song in Phrygian mode, and then I remember I had a student of mine back then, was Greek American, mostly American guy. And as I was sharing the song and how to name it and the title, he goes to me, name it Phrygianics. I said, what does it mean? I said, I understand it's from, he said, nothing really, it's from Phrygians, and it's like playing in the Phrygian mode. And I said, you know what, I like that, you know, and that's how that name came. And everybody's asking me because obviously it's an interesting name. It doesn't really mean anything, but it derives from the Phrygian mode.
Yeah, it gives the historical background.
Exactly.
Excellent. And You started composing music and publishing also music.
Yes.
At that time.
Meanwhile, before that project, when I first came after a year here in New York, I had the honor and the luck to meet one of the legendary percussionists. His name is Gerardo Velez. He was the percussionist for Jimi Hendrix at the Woodstock Festival back in 1969. Of course, he was 70 years old back then. But this guy, he has played with every possible musician today, from David Bowie to Stevie Wonder. At that time, he was playing with Spiros Exaras, another legendary jazz group. And when I met him, he helped me and he produced me 4 songs that I had back then. And he really lined up a dream team of musicians from Randy Brecker, Mark Egan, Tom Schumann and Joel Rosenblatt from Spiros Exaras, Tom Bones Malone, who else, if I'm missing someone, himself, of course. And I was thrilled, of course, but that project, I never released it back then. First of all, it was an EP, a short one, only 4 songs. But I also realized it was really beautiful, well done and everything. But I realized as a Greek, coming here, I had to compete with all of these big guitarists and musicians, and I felt a little bit, I felt that I didn't really speak either to them, but also me as a Greek. Something was missing. I didn't know back then what was that, but I was not sure. Although I loved the project, but I was not really sure about that. So that project it never came out until recently. And then, as I was starting going out and start missing the Greek music and experimenting with Theosos, I came up with that idea of fusing jazz into Greek music and actually composing also, because back then a lot of people in Greece, I remember, they were taking, for example, a Greek traditional song, turn it into jazz. Okay, that was good, great. But for me, I wanted to create compositions that they are based in jazz, but they have a lot of elements harmonically or rhythmically, or using sounds of my culture. And that took me a while to develop, but I was thrilled with the outcome, and then that's where I was released. I released that recording, Phrygianics, and then Blue Note, which is the biggest jazz label, was interested, and they picked it up and they released it under. So I released basically the project under the umbrella of Blue Note, and I was lucky because these years we still had record stores, which unfortunately today we don't. And I still remember like my record when it came out, and you know how they were sampling back then. All the new releases they were sampling, and I still remember my record was next to John Coltrane and Miles Davis and all of these giants. That was amazing experience for me.
Yeah, and that was a very pioneering at that time, because bringing, as you said, this new angle towards music, the elements. People, when they realize, Americans, or let's say non-Greeks, when they realize that you're a Greek, that was something positive or negative? You felt somehow that you were marginalized, or because you are Greek, what is the jazz tradition in Greece, etc. How
people really loved it, and not only the musicians, forget about that. They were thrilled because they were experiencing different rhythms. First of all, that of course many of them they have played them. That's why I picked them, but not all of them, and it's not very common in American music. Usually, American music and swing is based in 4/4. 4/4 is the rhythmical pattern, and sometimes they go to 3/4. That's it, like a jazz waltz. But to have 7/8 or 11/8, which is a Bulgarian rhythm basically, but we use it also in up north Greece, and all of this, and then I utilized the Epirotico clarino there, and zurna, and all of these instruments, and then I had Arto, who is Armenian Turkish. He did all of this different percussion and vocalization. So they really, really appreciated a lot. But the audience was very appreciative too, very much, very much. The only problem, I would say, in a way, was that the business people, they didn't really see it so commercial. And that's always we have the problem. The artists always have a big conflict with the business people, even if it's visual arts, even if it's music, or if it's whatever it is. Just because either they don't understand it, or they go sometimes with whatever sells. Something new, they don't take the risk. I remember when Norah Jones came out, she sold immediately 12 or 13 million copies. They were going crazy to try to find the next singer who sounds like her. How wrong is this? Like, why you have to find someone who sounds like her? Just because she sold, that doesn't mean another artist will sell the same amount of copies. Because Norah Jones was a package. Not only was a pretty girl, but she was an amazing vocalist. She was coming from a musical background. And it was the whole package, and she had that simplicity in her songs derived from Americana, from American music roots. So that doesn't mean everyone will, will have the same success, but that's how business people, they think, unfortunately. So back then, because my project was very new for the American audience, and although it was picked by Blue Note, they did not really promote my record. The only promotion was without doing anything, by putting my CD next to these giants. But this, they did it as a new release. They did not did it because they actually promoted me. So for me, it was good. But generally, all I'm saying is they were not ready for something like that. Nowadays, I see a lot of other people have came, and there is a guy from Algeria, I think, if I'm not mistaken, who lives in Paris, an amazing trumpet player, Ismail Malov. Great player. He basically does the same thing, like with the trumpet. He plays like the way that we play in up north Greece, and he combines jazz with that, and he does it beautifully. He has crossover for some reason. They discover him, and now his music is being played. I hear the WBGO, they had an interview on him, so nowadays they are a little more familiar with that style. But when my CD was released, it was not the right time, let's say. I don't believe in that. For me, right time is when something is new. But for them, the business people, they always think differently.
Then you did another important thing. You start bringing your friends and mates and music people to Greece. How that happened? Because you are missing Greece, or because you wanted to bridge, or bring to this great music also to a more central position in Greece, because jazz was marginalized in Greece, right, for some time.
It's always good to share with your friends, with your people, something that you really enjoy. So besides bringing my band, when they invited me back in 2005, after the success of Phrygianics, and I was playing in all the radios in Greece, they invited me with my group. But besides that, after a couple of years, in 2008, I had met with the legend vocalist, jazz vocalist, Mark Murphy. And he happened to come in some of the concerts. I was playing as a sideman for some singers, and we met and we had a nice conversation. We started playing together, and I told him for fun, I'm gonna bring you to Greece. He said, "Oh, I would love that." And then I had some people that I was speaking with them, and they were interested. And back then, nobody knew Mark Murphy in Greece.
He has so many nominations already.
Yes, but as I told you, Greece, especially in the jazz world, and especially back then in 2008, it was still behind. Now things got a little better. We can talk later, but 2008 it was still, Of course, there is always a cultivated audience for everything you're doing. But I remember that place Gazarte. It's a beautiful, beautiful club in Athens. They really invested on that because the owner liked him, and he liked the idea, and he booked us for 3 days. We did 3 amazing concerts. Everyone attended that concert, from George Papandreou, back then he was not, before he became Prime Minister. Panoussis came, Hadzis, Reboutsika. I'm talking about either politicians or artists or a lot of other people in the 3 days. It was really successful. They really also loved the concert. And I was lucky enough to have a nice recording on that. And then later on, with my record label, Harbinger Naxos, we released the whole concert. So everyone can find it not only as a physical CD, but in all digital platforms.
Yeah. But also you brought other people there, right?
Oh yeah, then later on I met with Elio Villafranca,
yes,
who's a Cuban pianist. And once we met, we started playing, and we really, really had good chemistry. And also, if you see historically, both of our countries have similarities. Not only that they are surrounded by sea, but political. They had been both dominated by dictators. We are poor also, right? In Europe, we are not like one of the richest countries. Cuba was poor. So we had a lot of similarities. And culturally, although we are two different, but with a lot of similarities. So we did a project with a combination. Again, the bass is jazz, but we combined Greek and Cuban elements together. Yeah. So I'm very proud of this project. It's very interesting, and it's only duo. It's only guitar and piano. And I like it because in other works I've done, you can see, of course, the technique of each musician, including mine, but I showcase a lot also my compositional side. But in this record, you can really hear the solid playing of the two players and how these two instruments can sound, what you can do with only two instruments. And I really like that idea, it's a very different and unique project.
Do you remember any comments they made about Greece? How they felt about Greece?
You mean the musicians?
Yeah, either Marco or Elliot.
Oh, everyone has loved it. Even the musicians of my band, everyone, first of all, has big respect about Greece because we gave the light to the universe. So nobody forgets that. And they all have big respect, and they all want to visit Greece, and once they visit, they all love the philoxenia, the vibe, the place, the weather, the food. I mean, they all want to go back again.
So in a way, you function also as an ambassador of via music. Music has.
Yeah, yes, music has that ability and that power.
You ever had the support of official organizations, institutions?
Not really.
No. The Ministry of Culture or music?
You have to know people there. You know how it is in Greece, especially.
Yeah. Let us say a few things about the Greek American community now, because I know that you play in various venues all these years, and you have a direct contact with the community. How do you see the community as far as concerned, both musically and also otherwise? How the institutions function, and how, if they can support Greek or Greek American musicians and artists in general?
I think I see it is pretty much as it is in Greece. There is a very small percentage of people who can appreciate the good music and the good side of the Greek music, but biggest part, unfortunately, because they all go in the summer in Greece and they go to these big clubs and listen to all of this. They are exposed to artists that they are very commercial, not necessarily bad, but they don't deliver the actual message of the Greek music. Not to say about the poetry that a lot of composers have engaged. And because of that, they are exposed to this shallow style of commercial Greek music, and it's very difficult to educate them. So no matter how much we try, I see some important concerts happening here and there, but unfortunately I don't see that many. But what really makes me sad is that I don't see a lot of sponsors, because in my opinion we shouldn't expect from the government all the time to support these things. And even in ancient Greece they had sponsorship, okay? And I have to say...
Χορηγή. It was an official status. Χορηγία.
Absolutely. And when I first came in America, one thing that really scared me, I didn't see any Ministry of Culture. They didn't have, and I said, what's happening here? I mean, this country doesn't have Ministry of Culture? And how all of these events are happening? I was confused. So I was scared a little bit. But then I said, it's got to be a way. And then when I realized how important is the sponsorship in this country, I said, wow, now I understand why they don't have, and that's the right thing. I think citizens, wherever they live, they should be responsible for their own culture. But that is not happening in the Greek community, unfortunately. Greek community may spend a lot of money to give to the Greek church or for building churches. And okay, I'm not saying that's important also for some people who are religious. I totally respect that. They can do that. But I think we have so many churches. Plus, you don't need churches to go and pray or having your own moment. So I believe we need better schools, not to be under the church necessarily. We need more schools, better schools. We need more arts, and that I don't see it. So Greeks need to be more educated in that aspect.
Yeah, how do you explain the fact that when the Greeks came to the States massively in 1900s, they brought together with them their music, especially from Asia Minor and other areas from Greece. And also in the mid-1910s, we had several Greek-owned music companies. After all, Rebetika were recorded in New York first, and then they were imported back to Greece. And then the existence of various clubs like Theas or Chroma or Krokosmo in Astoria, they don't exist anymore. How do you explain this declining aspect within the community from all this?
I think it's because people, they don't support this kind of music, and if you don't support something, it's like a flower. If you don't put water, it's gonna die. So it's the same thing. If people, you know how many times I had friends, people that I knew, and they told me, please start doing one night, and we're gonna come. I did it, they never came. I'm not accusing them. I'm not trying to say probably they were busy, but all I'm saying is, okay, they probably wanted to come, they couldn't come. Of course, if for other category of people who listen to the other category that I was mentioning earlier, maybe it's easier to come and spend a lot of money. And then the other thing, when you go and ask money for sponsorship for an event or a project, they don't give it. They don't give it. And I know some of these people, I know it. They can go and spend it for nothing in a night, $5,000 to see, I'm not gonna mention who, but some of these artists that I was saying earlier, the super cheap commercial, that they don't actually add nothing to the society. But it's pure entertainment and in a bad taste, in my opinion. But these same people, if you ask them to sponsor a beautiful event that also a lot of Americans will come and will educate people, they are not going to do it. With the exception of some, of course.
Because you are a cosmopolitan person, you are a citizen of the world, so you know many people from different other ethnicities or races. Is this happening also to other ethnic or racial groups, from what you know, or they do something different?
The same zip code, as I say. Greeks, all Mediterranean people are like that a lot. But not Europeans or Americans, no. Especially Europe also has a very, very high respect, big respect for arts. But also here, I'll tell you something. When I play here in America, I go to universities and perform Greek music like Theodorakis, Hatzidakis. The most important questions that I had in my entire life as an artist were made here by Americans, not by Greeks. They are coming at the end of the concert and they are asking, what is that instrument? Referring to the bouzouki. Or what was that rhythm that you played on that? And they are not musicians. I'm not talking about musicians. I'm talking about simple people who understand and enjoy music. So I was shocked when I saw that. I said, like, these people are more interested in our music than Greeks are. It's sad, but it's true.
But you're also an educator. I met some people from Queens, and a young boy told me that he knew you because you went to their school and you presented music. How easy, how difficult it is to communicate music to children? And from my understanding is that this young person was thrilled to realize or to be familiar with the music. So should children be exposed to music at early age, or they have to wait a little bit?
Absolutely, they should be. They have to be exposed at an early age in any kind of music. It doesn't have to be jazz or classical only. In any kind of quality music. In terms of these kids, I'm flattered that you say that. I use a trick usually when I go to schools and there is little kids or young kids. It's very difficult to draw their attention because either they are very little or very young and they cannot really understand. They don't have also the tolerance, to sit down. And so what I do is I go with their taste first. I say, what do you like? Oh, Lady Gaga, let's play a song. So I create an environment to make them understand that I'm not the strict teacher that I tell you what to do now and stop and listen, So I go with their taste first, and then this way I create an environment that says, okay, this guy is one of us. But then I say, okay, I like Lady Gaga too. I said, she's great, but listen also this. And then I can probably play something else, depending if it's more of a Greek kids, I may play something Greek, something they don't know. And I go, do you know who the composer is? No. Manos Hatzidakis. He did this and that. Or Mikis Theodorakis, he did poetry with this Elitis. Do you know who Elitis is? No. Then I start explaining. So by spending 5 or 10 minutes doing their own thing, I gain another 40 minutes presenting what I want to tell them, and they listen to me. Now, of course, many of them, they may forget next day. That's a different thing. But if you have continuation and if the other person does the same thing, slowly, that's how you build and educate young kids.
Spiro, also you have some books out that people or younger people still read. Tell us about, in Greece or perhaps elsewhere, I don't know.
Yeah, I have published some, not books in a way of theory that, but books with either my music or my work. The first book that came out was actually my first recording, which I mentioned earlier. It was Kostas Katsi's music, 15 songs. The idea actually started, it was my idea when he asked me one day on tour to help him on a song to do the classical intro. And by doing that, I said, Costa, would you like me to take some of your music and adapt it for classical guitar and give it to my students? Back then in Greece, I was teaching also a lot of kids. I had a lot of kids. And he said, yeah, go ahead. And I said, we'll publish a book and we'll have it. He agreed, and then when I do the first 5 songs, they were becoming so wonderful. Then he said, you know what, I'm going to introduce you to my producer. Maybe we can have a CD and a book at the same time. So that was the first CD came out with a book. And a lot of people, I know that this book and the CD, but the book especially, sold a lot of copies by guitarists, either amateurs or professionals from all over the world. I remember emails later on from Sweden, from a lot of different countries that they were telling me, or some of them, they didn't have my book, some of them were asking me, do you have the music for that recording? I have the recording, but I don't. And I was sending them for free, of course. I said, yeah, take it, And of course, a lot of my other music, a lot of classical pieces I have composed, especially the recent years, they've been playing from all over the world. I sell a lot of copies. They are buying my music, small things like for guitar and trombone, or piano and trombone, or guitar and flute. I have a lot of works out that they are buying the actual music in order to perform it. And of course I saw also on YouTube some people, they were playing also my music, like in their way. And that's a big honor for me when I see people that they are really playing my music and they're asking for my music.
Perhaps we can hear something from this early era.
Okay. I'm gonna play a little sample of one of Kostas Katsi's songs. It's called Addio, which means goodbye.
Who also marginalized at some point.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
But again, he was close to young musicians like yourself,
yes.
with all this tradition. This is very interesting.
Yeah, he is also an idol, for the Greek repertory generally.
And you did a tour together and all this.
Yeah,
fantastic.
I had an amazing experience playing with him. Like the first part of his concerts was playing by himself, and you could see 5,000 people like crying with him. It was an amazing experience. And then on the second part of the concert, the whole orchestra, including me, were joining him.
Fantastic, fantastic. Now in 2022, more and more studies come up after the pandemic and the lockdowns. Find people have expressed the importance of music during the lockdown and the pandemic, both in psychological terms or in terms of keeping some kind of sanity. So do you think music has this power, or it's something?
Music absolutely has this power, and it has a lot of powers, and it's very important. So yeah, during the pandemic, it was very important that a lot of artists did this viral concerts. It was very important to keep people, giving them hope, and also keeping them some good company while they were on the couch sitting, and having nothing else to do since they couldn't go out. Me, of course, I always had back in my mind something that I was afraid, but it seems probably I was wrong, but back then I thought that by doing so much of viral concerts, it will be something that will remain after the lockdown. So I was a little hesitant to do a lot of them.
But this is how you also experienced it, right? You had to stay in, you play,
Yes.
you composed.
Yes, the good thing is I took advantage of that terrible situation, and I did two things. One, that I composed a lot of new music, and which comes out eventually, little by little. And the other is that I released a lot of music that it was ready, like music from films that I have done, and theatrical plays, or my very first recording, which I told you when I came in America with this legendary percussionist. All of this music was sitting, and actually some of them was a little damaged, and I had to go to a special place, put it in a special ovens, and get it back. And I remastered everything, and I put out a lot of music. So somehow then although I had like 6 albums and some singles, but then now I have like 13 albums and 5 singles. All of a sudden my music that is published, it was almost doubled, just because it was there sitting, so now it's exposed to people, and it's in all digital platforms. So those were the two major things that I did, instead of sitting down and crying, because although how terrible this thing was, you have always to see the positive side and how you can take advantage in a good way.
But you said you also see the returning of going or getting together, people.
Yes.
So music is something that you don't do by yourself.
People are thirsty
only
to go back and see live music, and that's a beautiful thing, and I'm glad for that, because as I said, sometimes when you do something, then it becomes a habit, and I was afraid maybe what's gonna be after the COVID, but no, people are coming out, and music and life is getting back slowly.
How do you see the future of the Greek American community? Do you think that the new American-born generation will, since they lose the language is not one of the strongest points they have, but they feel Greek though, at least most of them so far. Do you think that they will continue to listen or to use, to consume, to enjoy Greek music?
The Greek community, in my opinion, is the reflection of Greece. I'll go the other way. You travel to Greece all the time. Do you believe that the language is the same as it used to be 20 or 30 or 40 years ago? No. I go in Athens, you know how they speak? Greeklish. I hear on the television. I turn on the television, and they say all the usual of these American English words there. What for?
Να κάνουμε ένα break.
Yes, exactly. Να κάνουμε ένα break. What does it mean that? Να κάνουμε ένα break. There is no Greek word for that. All I'm saying is, if Greece has lost its identity and its language, and it starts losing things, what do you expect these people to do? So I think, and I strongly believe that the Greek community is the reflection. I see the Greek community, generally, let's say Astoria, I see it as a village or town, whatever you're going to call it, as a Greek village, but geographically belongs in United States. You know, it's like Alaska, for example. It's an American state, but it's on the other side. You know, it's exactly the same thing. So it's a Greek village, or town, or city, however you actually city, because a lot of people, but belongs to, you know, geographically is in the States. But it's Greek. All of these kids, when they travel to Greece, what they see? You know, they see this kind of artists. They hear this kind of language, which is not Greek anymore. I mean, they have forgotten. So what do you expect to go? So I think Greece mainly is responsible in what's happening in the diaspora.
But also now the community talks about voting from
Yeah.
here. You think that will be a good idea to help to promote?
I think yes.
To promote some of the issues we have here is a good idea.
I think it is. I'll tell you why. Because first of all, people who live here, they travel every year in Greece. They leave a lot of money in Greece. They have land, or they own.
Yeah,
they have assets in Greece. So why not to? So they have the right to vote and to see who is in power, and they can, yeah. They are Greeks, you know. As I said, don't forget that we are a city out of Greece, but it's a Greek city, so why not?
You too. You visit Greece. You feel you are a Greek American, an American Greek. How do you identify yourself? Or the music is your identity?
You know, I don't know. There are certain things that I don't like in Greece, and unfortunately, they have not changed. I've been out almost 30 years out of Greece, and they are exactly the same things that were bothering me. They are exactly the same. Although I believed when I left that things would change, you know, but no. But also some other good things have not changed either. So let's be honest, you know, like either good or bad things have not changed, because sometimes the good things change, they become bad, you know. That's not good either, you know. Now how I feel, sometimes they call me Greek American. I don't like that ID for me. I don't feel Greek American. I feel mostly Greek. But if you ask me deeply, I feel more of a citizen of the world, because, as I said, as I do in my music fusion, I like for Greece to adapt other things, other elements from other countries, that they do it nicely and they are effective, and I always admire, you know, and keep also their own values, because Greece still has values, and I like them to keep that, you know. Of course, I'm asking too much, because sometimes you take one thing, you adapt one, and then that leads you to something else, then you end up losing your values. Okay, yes, that's why I said, if you can fuse things in a way that you can have the best of everything, that's what I try to do to me, to do to my daughter. That's how I would envision society, trying to have everything good together.
Spiro, recently you had a great collaboration with a young artist, and I saw and I heard the music that you created. Let's talk about her and also about you know, the individual works, starting from the more recent, going back to the region, to the roots. Tell us about this collaboration.
Are you referring the collaboration about the two Christmas songs?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's an interesting collaboration, and I'm very proud of it. not only for the projects and for the Christmas songs, which I love Christmas music in general, and I always wanted to release an album like that, but mostly because the lyricist is my own daughter, the lyricist of the two songs, and there is not such a great feeling working with your own child. And Ileana is a brilliant kid, very well educated, and she has that natural talent to write incredible lyrics in English. And she has the talent also to adapt the scene, like the same way when I compose music for movies that I have to adapt the scene and behave musically in order to accommodate the scene. My daughter has that ability to adapt the scene of the topic. So when she listens to a song or you explain her that this will be a Christmas song, she knows exactly and right away what it's going to be. Or you tell her this is for that reason, for whatever reason, because she has collaborated with other people as well. And she is incredible at that. So I had these two compositions that I had done a while ago, and I needed lyrics. And one is happy, more of a, I would say, classic kind of Christmas song, but the other is very sad. And as an artist, I always like to release something to talk about the other side of the holidays, the sad side. And I know people sometimes disagree. They say, oh no, Christmas has to be happy. Well, yes, but unfortunately, life is not always happy. Most of the times, actually, it's sad, and there is
somebody has to give voice to the unprivileged.
Exactly, and I always, and because I love kids a lot, and I'm very sensitive to this, and I wanted that song to talk about orphan kids that they never experienced that joy of the parents buying them a present, and feeling that joy of the Christmas. So I released these two songs. One is super happy, and it talks about bringing all the world together. That's why it talks about Paris and New York and Moscow and London, and how nice it's people to sing Christmas carols. But the other song talks about the orphan kids, and my daughter did an amazing job in both. Although the one we did it together, the happy one, I had the first idea, but I gave it to her, so she really made it into
But not only as a father, but also as a mentor, as an experienced musician. How do you see working with a young person like Ileana? How do you see this new generation? Because music now is a totally different scene. How we consume music, how music is coming to the market, and how we play it. It's a different era. Because he's a representative of this new generation. How do you see this new generation?
Listen, we have to adapt. We can't be snob in the new generation in many things. I don't agree, and I don't like a lot of things that young generations do. But I remember when I was listening to Led Zeppelin and all of this rock, they were looking at me. All the ladies, they were saying that it's devilish music. So when I remember that, I said, okay, these people were telling this about the music that I love and I grew up. So I'm not allowed to say the same thing, because for some reason, this is today's voice. This, represents them, and it speaks to their hearts. So I try to also educate myself and try to understand. Like, generally, I don't like rap music, but there are some songs that they are really revolutionary, I have to say. Really, really amazing, and some of this R&B stuff, So if you search deeper, it's not about the style of music. I would say it's about the song itself. So it can be bad music even in jazz, or boring, let's say, even in classical. Sometimes, how many times you hear a classical piece that sounds like something else. I'm not saying it's bad, but it could be a little boring. I mean, with all due respect to classical music, you can say, okay, I've heard that. I mean, okay, it doesn't really, but then you have icons like Bach or Mozart or Stravinsky later on, or you name it, like they really leave their signature there. So the same thing is with any kind of music. Even not in all rock music that I used to listen was diamonds, but you had Pink Floyd or certain groups that they were innovators. So in a way, when someone is an innovator and speaks a voice and delivers a message and talks about society, about problems, about peace, even about love in a good way, not in a cheap way, to me is honest. And when a song is honest, it doesn't matter what style of music.
But do you think that musicians should get involved in politics? Because you have a beautiful song about Ukraine, let's say. Let's talk about this project.
Well,
is a musician a person who should be that close to society, or should be further back from the society?
Nico, there is no recipe for that. I think artists should expose their feeling and do whatever they feel at that moment. Now, it's not, I don't think every artist should think, oh, now I have to do this because of that, or now I have to do this because of that. The Christmas songs, I didn't have to release them. I always felt that way, and I did it. The song with Ukraine, when the war started, and I'm glad I was wrong. I thought when the war started, I thought that Putin, because he's a very strong power, I thought in 3-4 days, as he had also announced, would be, invaded. And when the war started, I felt so much for these people. Like, my mind went in Cyprus, what happened with Turkey in Cyprus, and to a lot of other poor countries that they don't have that power to resist. And I thought that Putin will take it, and I said, oh my God, Ukraine is not going to exist in a while, and that feeling made me, like, I wake up that morning and I have that melody in my mind and sit on the piano, because actually I composed that song on the piano, not on the guitar. Many of the songs I composed on piano. And I created a solo piano piece, and I decided all the money from streaming and downloading to go for helping Ukraine. And I spoke with an organization, Ukraine organization, and all the money will proceed for pharmaceutical help. Now I'm saying I'm glad that I was wrong, because apparently Ukraine resists, and really well. I'm not going to go into politics now and the mistakes that West has done in America, but definitely this war needs to stop, and I'm glad that Ukrainians have they are brave and they still resist.
And as you said, the song is available and
in all digital platforms. Someone can download it on Amazon or Apple Music. It only costs 99 cents, which is nothing. So if everyone wants to download and share with other people, 100% of this money, or streaming, the more you stream the song, the more money they go to that organization.
Can you play the introduction of that song, maybe, perhaps?
I could, but my piano is not in
because
tune.
I would like you to bring us to the creative process. How do you create? Say you sit and you say, oh, how that comes? Or it is a lot of things with a pencil, you sit down,
The pencil comes after. The beginning is when the inspiration visits you, and you happen to be there, you know, it's the first moment. Sometimes I lay in my bed for 5 minutes and a melody comes to my mind. So that melody, if I immediately take my guitar or the piano and play it, then that's it. Then I can continue the song with the pencil and all of that. But first you have to have the inspiration. Sometimes I'm on the street, I can see something, an incident or something that really touched me, or I might be in a happy mood. I remember once I was in love with a beautiful girl. Immediately I composed a song. So those things are coming naturally. It's pure inspiration. Then in order to develop the song and make it, you know, a full composition, you need then to sit down either on piano or on the guitar, spend some hours, and then you take the pencil and write down the notes and all of that, you know. But the beginning, the genesis is just pure inspiration.
And you have it in your mind as notes, as how that comes, as a flow.
As a flow, it's like either a melody, like that morning for Ukraine. You asked me. I was reading the news and my mind traveled, like, you know, in imagination, traveled to these people, how they are going to feel right now, and what's going to happen in a few days. See, I'm getting goosebumps. In a few days, this country, a free country that has all the rights to do whatever they want to do, like someone, just because he has a bigger power and he believes to whatever he believes, can come and invade that country. How crazy is that, you know? And that melody comes, the sad melody comes in my mind. And I sit on the piano, you know. Forgive me, but it's a little out of tune. But anyway,
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
So it's like. That was the first thing that came into my mind, and then it's G minor. No, it's D minor, the song. The song is in D minor. So as I started, it's like. Sorry, I forgot it.
A composer must also be a player.
Not necessarily. I play
Because
very basic piano.
But you play everything. You play all instruments. Is this necessary?
No, but it's good to know. Even to play a little bit, but more important is to know the abilities of every instrument. Like you cannot compose for an instrument if you don't know what that instrument can do. Because it can do a lot of different effects. It can do a lot of different things with every instrument, you know. Like you, for example, on the guitar you have things, harmonics. Look at that. Like if you don't know that this is or you can do, for example, or you can use it as a percussion, or in piano, for example, you can open up. Now it's difficult and pull with the strings and play. Those are effects if you want to do more progressive or contemporary stuff. But even you have to know the range, you have to know where it sounds great, an instrument, or a vocalist. You write for a singer, you have to write for his range, so it doesn't sound very low or very high or very, you know, you have to find the best range that the instrument sounds great. And then, of course, you use your imagination to develop a song. For example, this one I was telling, I start the song like that, right? See, arpeggio, simple. Then I take the same melody and I double the arpeggio, like you hear that the left hand goes in 16 notes faster because you give more intensity to the song, you know, or anxiety, or, you know. So, and then I was missing another part. How was I have forgotten. I don't really remember it, but I had to develop a different part. So the song is not only 2 minutes and it's not getting boring. So you have to do a journey. You know, when you compose the music, you start from somewhere, and it's like a journey. You go somewhere. So when you heard it earlier, you said, you heard the second part that you didn't expect, you know, and that's, to me, that's what makes exciting a project, to make the audience say, oh, what was that, you know.
But you grew up when musicians had to get together and play all together, but now
that comes after. That comes after.
Okay.
When you create the creative part, you have to be by yourself, you know.
Okay.
It's like a conversation you have, you with the universe, whatever power is up there, you know. So, and after you're ready, then of course you get together and you work details and you work on the interpretation and the execution of the song.
But now people don't have to be together in the same room, in the same space.
No, in serious music
with
they do.
With the computers, people can write, you know, different parts.
In certain kinds of music, it could be like you can record and then you send it to someone, but he can hear what you have already recorded. Yes, it could be. I'm not a big fan of it, actually. I did it only once in one song, and I did it also in an album only in two songs, in the Campanellis album, just because two of the artists were in Greece. One of them was Karyofilia Karabeti, who is an amazing actress and dramatic actress, and the other was a rapper. I used for first time a rapper in my music, and I think, to my knowledge at least, it was the first time that a rapper sang poetry. It was Cabanelli's poetry. Amazing, very deep poetry, not the street language that rappers use, but it was poetry. So it was very, very exciting. But I recorded everything here, and I had to send the files to them. So with the exceptions like that, sometimes you do because you already have created the vibe of the song. But many people in pop music, sometimes they do one by one the instruments the way you say. I'm totally against that because you're missing a lot of things there. Music is not, you know, in music you have to. You have to use, even when you look at each other, like there is a communication. So that communication is getting lost when you record by yourself and then you send it to another person. You know, you have to have an understanding. It's like a conversation. Believe me, it wouldn't be the same conversation, me and you, if you would have ready the questions and send it to me and I will record it. It will be nice, I'm not saying no, but it wouldn't have that kind of immediate, contact that we have right now.
Let's talk more about your work, specifically each one. You mentioned Campanelli. When was the Campanellis?
Campanellis was in 2016 when Lina Orfanos, a soprano, that was Mikis Theodorakis' muse, one of his muses, met Cabanelli's daughter in California when they had a tribute to Cabanellis, and she liked her voice and she said, listen, I found these 10 unpublished songs of my father and I like your voice and I want you to sing them, but if you find some composer, although she said I'm talking with some composers in Greece as well, but if you have someone and then Lina immediately gave me the lyrics. We did some kind of a demo, a couple of songs. We sent them to Caterina Cabanelli, and she liked them. And she stopped searching for other people because she was speaking with someone. She said, "You know what? I want Spiro to do everything." You know, and then that's how we met. And she trusted me, her father's work, and I'm very honored for that and grateful. And we did that very interesting CD because it has a lot of elements from classical music, a lot of Greek elements, a lot of New Orleans, like jazz elements, and rap as well, that I had the idea of using that song that was a very long poetry. And either you couldn't really release something like that. You could not make a song like this because it was so many lyrics. But there were so incredible lyrics. I said, I need to do something with that. And then I came up with the idea. I said, why not rap? And back then there was not any poetry in rap, and that's what I did. So it was very, very exciting project, and the way that was processed also.
So, and let's go back now. The previous one, Lancabanelis.
Previous was the one with Elio we talked about, and before that I had this music for films and theater that I've done.
Is any difference to write a score for music for
Yes.
for theater or film than composing a cycle of
Yes, there is difference because there is not much difference when you compose for movies than compose on a specific poetry. Those are similar, and I will explain why. Let me go first. When you compose just music for yourself, either if there are songs that later would add the lyrics, or it's just a musical composition, there you're totally free to do whatever you like any kind of idea, and the way you want to develop, and the way you want to, even time limit, for example. You don't have any time limit. And I'm not a big fan of the radio producers that say 3 minutes. I hate that. I'm totally against. So as a composer, I have songs of 10 minutes and I have songs of 1 minute and a half. It doesn't matter. For me, it's just about whatever I have to say. Sometimes I can say it in a minute, sometimes I need more time. Now, the difference when you compose either on a written lyrics or music for certain films or theater, you have some limitations. Limitations can be, especially on a movie, can be time limit. They may tell you, or you may see it, there is a specific scene, even if it's a love scene or a crime scene or whatever scene is that, it might be 2 minutes, 3 minutes. So depending that, you have to match your entrance and your way out into the scene. Music in the movies is the most important thing. How many times, and I'm sure you have experience, you've seen movies that were not really strong, but because of the music they were saved. Like they had such a great music, and then you associate the movie with that song, and then or you remember the movie because of the love theme or whatever. So it's very exciting, because although you're still free to compose whatever you believe that will be appropriate for that scene, but you have time limitation, but also you have somehow to tune your mood into the scene. So in a way you're acting. It's like you're an actor. See, an actor has to get into his role. You see how many times I was reading and I've heard, speaking with Karyofiliaso, who's my dear friend, she was telling me after a performance of a Greek tragedy, she needs about an hour to come back when the play is ready. She's not ready to go out and socialize. She needs some time to get out of that mood, because we're not robots. We don't press a button and all of it. So the same thing is when you compose a music for that scene, you really have to be in the scene. I watch the scene many times. I close my eyes and I try to feel it. So the more you feel it, then the more ideas you have, and you have to make sure then whatever you create in terms of melody and dynamics. For example, if you have a happy scene, you have a major chord like that. You can build something on a major, right? But when you have a sad scene, see, that's already by that chord, it's more sad, right? Or you have, for example, something with suspense, let's say, and I'm just giving examples, like you have to use a lot of different elements in the way, in terms of rhythm or harmony or certain melody. So this way you match the scene. So the better you're doing it, the better you match the scene, and then you have the perfect, the perfect movie or the perfect score for that movie.
Other works that we should mention, and you have stories how you created them. Do you think that, how do you know that your work is done? I remember a French poet said, poems they're never finished, they're just abandoned. But in the sense that, it is a work in progress. How do you know that your work is done?
You just feel it. You just feel it. It's like you're trying to say something, but you have not concluded. You're missing something. There's not really a recipe, as I said. It's not like, now I did this or that. Like you feel that, no. Even sometimes the melody, you say, I need to change something there. It doesn't flow that well. You have to, maybe sometimes you change a note, as I explained earlier on the modes. You change one note and it's a different mode. The same thing is here, So it's something that you feel. Now you say, okay, now I'm happy. Now I feel that, I said what I had to say.
Some creative people like yourself, they want to keep their work as much as possible. They don't want to publish it to get it out there, because they feel it belongs. Do you have this feeling of belonging, or you feel that it's something people should share?
I think so. I don't do things only for myself, and I'm aware, and I know that my music will not touch everyone. I know that, and I don't have a problem with this because that's the beauty on every style of music or arts generally, or in anything we're doing in life. Even with the food, like not all the people like the same thing. So I don't get offended if someone is not touched with my music or whatever I do. As I was saying, if you are honest with yourself and you deliver an honest project, then it's a different thing, a different story. Like some people will like it, some people will don't. And as I said, I'm a person that I like to share. I don't agree with people who keep it for themselves because I don't know. Sometimes people are insecure. Maybe they believe it's not strong enough. But see, that's the thing. You don't have to deliver necessarily a strong project. Once it's honest, it is what it is. And let people decide if it's strong or if it touches them or not.
Let's say, I know that you have inspired many people and you have motivated many people to become musicians. Like the example we said before with this young boy, the young student. What is an advice you like to give, or a recommendation, or a summary of your tremendous experience? What do you say to a young person who wants to start becoming a musician, a composer?
Well, first of all, the common advice is discipline, perseverance, and of course I'm repeating what other people have said, but definitely this is the number one ingredient. But my advice to them is to try to experience as many things as they can in terms of cultures, music, anything, and also to be exposed in a lot of other forms of art, not only in music. If you're going to become a musician, it's very important to know about acting, believe it or not, especially if you're a singer, but also as a musician, because you're telling a story. When you tell a story, you really have to know how to say the story. And the attitude is always different depending what the subject is. And those things are very important. So if you are exposed in different art forms, then you also see how they interpret several things, and then you get ideas, and then you expand the possibilities.
So you don't see music or any form of art in isolation. You see...
No, I see more holistic, let's put it that way. To me, it's not only one thing, it's a lot of things together. And then the more you read about history, about cultures, about many things, try to taste a lot of things, try to get deeper if you can, you know. And this will help you and lead you to some results that you had never thought, because you open up the boundaries, you know, you don't stay close in one thing. Because, okay, I don't really believe in techniques. I mean, okay, no, let me rephrase that. I don't really believe in the studies of the arts. I believe that arts is a natural talent and something that comes from above. Now, certain techniques, if you learn them, might help you, of course, to develop certain ideas. I don't disagree with that. That's what the studies could help only. But if you go to university to study how to make a melody or to compose a melody, or no, this will never happen. It will be very, you know, robotic. it won't have a soul. So. And again, the more things you're exposed, the more possibilities you have to get inspired in different ways.
Given your rich career, is something that you have done differently?
Not really. Not really. I like what I've done, because I was always resisting in the commercial music, in the bad commercial music, of course. And as I said, I'm always honest with what I do, and I wouldn't have done anything differently.
Let's talk about other works. Let's say the Immigrants.
Well, Immigrants is always a topic that, you know, will never end. Not only this country, all over the world, of course. And coming from Greece, we also have similar problems. But also living in this country, I see also the same problems. And at some point, I couldn't resist and create a song about immigrants with a friend of mine who did the lyrics. His name is Jeremy Ryan, and he did the English lyrics first, but he had that hook on the lyrics, although it was English, was saying La Ruta, because La Ruta is the Rio Grande path.
The border, right?
The border that coming from Mexico to America, and I'm sure you know what's happening there, a lot of rapes and people get killed, women get raped, and you name it, a lot of amazing, incredible disasters. So it's so hard for them to cross this passage, and then we wanted also to make that song a little stronger and closer to the reality. And the reality is a lot of Latin American people enter from there. So we said, instead of English, maybe we should translate the song into Spanish. And since we had also La Ruta, which was the hookup, and that's the name of the song, then we translated. And then I found this amazing singer from the Broadway's Nancy Ticotin, who's a friend of mine for years, and she really gives you goosebumps with the way she interprets that song. And then I had the idea of creating a little video, because the song, of course, it came out in all digital platforms, but I wanted to do something also bigger for that, and I had the idea of creating a little video. But of course, I'm not a filmmaker, and I'm not. That's not really my expertise. But I always have ideas, so I said I can create something simple. So I called a good friend of mine who's an amazing photographer, and he's been all over the world, and he had footage from immigrants from Turkey, Greece, Mexico, Canada, Iran, I think, all over the world. And I asked him for permission. I said, Craig, can I, his name is Craig Rattle, Ruttle. He's an amazing current photographer. He travels all over the world. And he agreed. He said, yes, if it's for that purpose, I will give them to you. And you have my permission. And then, but then I said, we need maybe some liner notes. Instead of having the lyrics of the song, I thought it would be even, would have more impact if we will create a little story what these people go through. And then I invited my dear friend Spiros Exaras, who, except that he's an acclaimed psychoanalyst, but he's all writes really great. He's a great writer. And I said, Spiro, would you be interested to, give us a few lines, about 4 minutes that the song is, and he loved the idea. So we created a little video. It's called La Ruta, and it's my music, that song with the liner notes of Spiros Exaras and all the footage, all the images by Craig Rattle. And yeah.
As we go further back, what else we have? You have?
Well, the last thing I would probably add is some of the collaborations that I've done through the years.
Yes.
As a guitarist, that I, besides playing in Greece with all of these people that we mentioned earlier, my first big opportunity to go out of the Greek boundaries, although it was in a Greek territory, it was when I performed with Shirley Bassey back in 1990 at Herodion in Athens, Greece. That was my first amazing experience as a very young musician. And then when I came here, after a few years, when I started meeting people, the producer of Mariah Carey called me, and he wanted me to come and play in one of his songs. And I went at the studio and I recorded. Actually, he had me play a little solo with his guitar. And I played that. The song is called My All, and that sold 3 million copies, that single. Wherever I go, even now, sometimes I hear it, because it's an old song but classic, and I hear it. I hear my guitar solo. So, and then later on, of course, with a lot of other amazing musicians here in New York, from Dave Valentine, Grammy Award flute player, passed away a few years ago, Arturo Farrell, of course the Mark Murphy Project, and a lot of other incredible musicians.
Excellent. Spiros Exaras, thank you very much from Queen's College and the Hellenic American Project for this incredible interview.
Thank you very much. Good luck to your series. That sounds very, very interesting and exciting series of interviews that you're having.
It is only because people like you do very interesting work. That's why.
But you are the spirit and behind that. So
thank you.
I'm going to perform a song of mine that I composed years ago when my daughter was 2 years old, and when I was watching her playing and jumping like a little deer, I named it Deer Sleep, the song. It goes like that.